The moment I saw my wife standing in front of the mirror that evening, something inside my chest tightened in a way I couldn't explain. She looked different. Not just beautiful, she was always beautiful, but carefully, deliberately dressed in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup soft but elegant, and she wore the deep blue dress she had only worn once before, years ago. The kind of dress someone wears when they want to be unforgettable. And she wasn't going anywhere with me. For a moment, I just stood in the hallway of our small house in Columbus, Ohio, watching her through the half-open bedroom door. My mind raced with questions I wasn't brave enough to ask. We had been married for 8 years. 8 years of shared breakfasts, late bills, laughter, arguments, and quiet evenings on the couch. Yet in that moment, she looked like a stranger preparing for a night I knew nothing about. When I finally asked where she was going, she didn't answer. She simply smiled. Not the playful smile I knew so well. Not the tired smile she gave after long days at the hospital where she worked as a nurse. This smile was mysterious, almost secretive, and then she walked past me, picked up her purse, and headed for the door. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss stories that remind us what truly matters. Because what happened that night would change the way I saw my marriage forever. My name is Michael, and my wife's name is Rachel. We met 10 years ago during a rainy afternoon at a coffee shop near Portland, Oregon, back when life felt wide open and full of possibilities. Rachel had laughed at something I said about the weather, and within an hour we were talking like we had known each other for years. Back then, everything about us felt effortless, but life has a way of slowly replacing effortlessness with responsibility. After we married, we moved across the country to Columbus, Ohio so I could take a job managing a logistics warehouse. Rachel found work at a local hospital. At first, we were excited about the future. But over time, the long shifts, the bills, and the daily grind began to wear us down. We didn't fight much. In fact, sometimes that felt worse. Instead of arguments, there was silence. Dinner became something we ate while staring at our phones. Conversations became short updates about work schedules. The spark that once filled our apartment slowly faded into routine. I noticed the change, but I didn't know how to fix it. So when I saw Rachel dressed like that on a random Thursday evening, my mind immediately filled with dark thoughts I didn't want to believe. She had never looked that excited just to go out alone. The front door closed softly behind her, and I stood there for a long moment staring at the empty hallway. Every instinct told me to trust her, but fear is loud, and doubt is louder. 10 minutes later, I grabbed my jacket and stepped outside. I hated myself for what I was about to do, but curiosity and anxiety pushed me forward. I got into my car and drove down the quiet suburban street until I spotted her small silver sedan a few blocks ahead. She was heading downtown. Streetlights flickered across the windshield as I followed at a distance, my stomach twisted in knots. The city traffic grew thicker as we approached the center of Columbus. She turned into a parking lot near a small brick building I didn't recognize. I parked across the street and watched. Rachel stepped out of her car, smoothed the front of her dress, and walked toward the entrance. Above the door hung a simple sign, Hope Haven Community Center. Confused, I got out of my car and crossed the street. Through the window, I could see a group of people gathered inside, maybe 20 or 30 of them. The room looked warm and welcoming, decorated with paper lanterns and small string lights. Rachel stepped to the front of the room. People began clapping. I stood there outside the glass, frozen. A moment later, an elderly man opened the door and smiled at me like he had been expecting me. He gestured for me to come inside. When I walked into the room, the applause suddenly grew louder. Rachel turned around. For a second, surprise flashed across her face. But then that same mysterious smile returned. I looked around, completely lost. The room was filled with people of all ages, some elderly, some young parents, some individuals who looked like they had faced difficult lives. Then Rachel walked toward me, and that's when I saw the banner hanging behind her. Celebrating Michael Carter, 5 years of quiet kindness. I blinked, certain I was misreading it. Rachel took my hand and gently led me to the front of the room. She explained everything slowly, and every word made my chest heavier with emotion. For the past 5 years, during my lunch breaks at work, I had been volunteering at this community center. Nothing big, just delivering leftover food from the warehouse cafeteria to families who needed it, helping fix broken chairs, organizing supply shelves. It was something I never talked about much. Not because it was secret, but because it felt like the kind of thing you just do. But Rachel had known. Without telling me, she had started volunteering there too during her days off. Over time, she got to know the people I had been quietly helping. And tonight wasn't a date. It was a thank you. One by one, people stepped forward. A single mother named Allison thanked me for fixing the heater in her apartment during a freezing winter week. An elderly veteran named Thomas thanked me for bringing meals when he couldn't leave his home. A young boy named Marcus hugged me and said the basketball hoop I installed outside the center was the best gift he had ever gotten. Each story felt like a memory I had nearly forgotten, but hearing them all together, it was overwhelming. Then Rachel spoke. She said something I will never forget for the rest of my life. She said that somewhere along the way, our marriage had grown quiet and distant, not because we stopped loving each other, but because we forgot to notice the good still living inside each other. She said watching the way I treated strangers reminded her of the man she fell in love with all those years ago, and tonight, she wanted me to see that man again too. By the time she finished speaking, tears were already rolling down my face. I realized something painful but important in that moment. While I had been worried that my wife might be drifting away from me, she had actually been working quietly to bring us closer again. Later that night, as the gathering ended and people slowly headed home, Rachel and I walked out into the cool Ohio air together. For the first time in months, the silence between us felt peaceful instead of empty. Before this story ends, I want to ask you something special. In the comments below, write the word kindness. It helps these stories reach more people who might need hope today, because what happened next was simple but powerful. Rachel slipped her hand into mine and looked up at me with the same warm expression she had the day we met. We didn't need grand speeches anymore. We just needed to remember who we were. Marriage isn't always about fireworks and perfect moments. Sometimes it's about quiet acts of love that go unnoticed for years, until one day someone finally shines a light on them. And when they do, you realize the love was never gone. It was just waiting to be seen again. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who believes in love and second chances, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us how powerful simple kindness can be. Because sometimes, the person we're most afraid of losing